Coming up on At Issue, it's a state of the cities, if you will. We're talking to Charleston and Mattoon mayors about their successes and challenges this year and what's in store for the future. Stay tuned. It's an update you won't want to miss. It's all on At Issue, and it starts right now. Hello and thanks for joining us for At Issue. I'm your host, Kate Pleasant, and today we're talking about the cities of Charleston and Mattoon, and we're doing kind of a year in review of sorts. Joining me today are Mayor Larry Rennels of Charleston, I'm on the far side there from me, and Tim Gover of Mattoon. Thank you, mayors, for coming in today and talking about this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to start with Mayor Rennels. You've been on the job for just around over 6 months now, and it seemed like a seamless transition. Would you say that it was?
I would say it was. I've served on the City Council for 16 years and served as the Mayor Pro Tem for the last 8 years. So I was pretty familiar with what was going on, and John Inyard and I kept in pretty close contact all the time. So it was a pretty smooth transition.
And do you think your experience on county board, really lended to making that transition seamless?
On the City Council, yes.
Yes,
it sure did.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right. Well, first I want to start for both of you on kind of a year in review as far as successes go. We'll talk about challenges in just a minute, but what are some of the successes that the cities have seen? You want to start, Mayor Gover?
Be happy to do so.
All right.
We've had a number of expansions industrially in Mattoon over the past year. Mars Pet Food has announced and is undergoing a multi-million-dollar expansion, adding additional employees. American General Tubing has started production in the former AMPAD building on West DeWitt. They've added about 30 employees. General Electric is undergoing a multi-million-dollar expansion. We'll add employees. American Precision undergoing an expansion. So I have had a number of expansions industrially in Mattoon, and we're very pleased with that. Very pleased certainly to see an increase in the number of employees.
Okay. And Mayor Rennels, are you experiencing something similar in Charleston?
We're seeing something similar as well. Rural King purchased the old American Hardware or KZ Tool and Machine, whichever you remember it by, building, and they're going to be putting a distribution center in there. Arkwright has moved back to their original building, and they've been sold to another company. They're adding some more employees, so we're seeing some increase in employees. We're seeing some additional companies in town. From the retail point of view, we've had Ruler Foods open. We had Dollar Tree move to a more expanded building. We've had the Chevrolet dealership, Diepholz, do a major remodel. So there's a lot of things going on.
Okay, what about retail in Mattoon? Have you seen a little bit of retail expansion there?
We have. The Goodwill store opened both for sales and also for accepting donations of products, items. We've had a few other retail establishments that have started or have expanded, and hopefully there will be others that will be doing the same thing.
Okay, and what do you attribute these successes to when you're speaking industrially or retail? Where does that success come from?
I think from the community itself, from the quality of workforce that we have in the Coles County and surrounding area. I think the work that is being done, for example, by Coles Together and by other people that are involved in industrial development within the communities, the community spirit. We have certain individuals within the community that are spearheading the purchase of buildings, for example, in our downtown area, and remodeling those buildings, encouraging businesses to go into those buildings. So I think it's a multitude of things, basically people working together.
Okay, and Mayor Rennels?
I agree. We always hear that the quality of workforce in Coles County is something that attracts many, many employers. In fact, one of the interesting things that came to light here in the last month is that there are no vacant industrial buildings in Coles County right now. If Coles Together gets an input from a new company that wants something that's already built, we don't have it right now. That's good and that's bad. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have the buildings filled. It'd be nice to have a little bit of wiggle room if somebody needed something.
I've heard that they may be working on something as far as spec buildings go. Is that something that the cities are talking about as well, at least having plans for those?
I think we've discussed that with Coles together, yes.
Okay. And so what about challenges? I'm sure with every year comes new challenges for cities. So have you experienced challenges this year that you've had to deal with, and how did you do that?
Budget. Budget. The state, the uncertainty, I think Larry would
That's
agree.
right.
We don't know what's coming toward us as far as the financial assistance from the state. It's really up in the air, and of course both of our cities, our fiscal year begins May 1st.
That's right.
And so we're starting, very shortly we'll be starting on working on next fiscal year's budget. And there's some uncertainty as to what's going to happen as far as the money that we receive from the state.
Okay.
I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge right now.
That's a big challenge, and kind of to go along with that is health insurance.
Exactly.
We are working right now on next year's health insurance plan for the city employees. And after we got the figures from the insurance companies, it is a major challenge.
Okay, so what are your plans? What are you working towards there? How are you going to try and solve that problem?
We're working on that right now. We're running a bunch of numbers. We're trying to figure out if it's going to be possible for the city to contribute a little bit more, or exactly how we're going to handle that, and maybe make some changes in the plans. I think by the first of the week we will have that pretty well resolved.
Okay, are you seeing any challenges other than what you mentioned, budget, before?
Oh yes. You know, there's always the question as to what we can do as far as salary increases. We have 3 union contracts that are coming due next year that we're starting to work on now, and so that'll be a challenge. And that, going along with finances and the budget, creates a real concern. Mm-hmm. Plus, we have also, Larry talked about the health insurance. Another thing we have in Mattoon that I don't believe you have, health insurance for retirees, and that's costing us about $1,200,000 or $300,000 a year. So that we have to build into our budget as well.
Okay, and when you're a small city, you know, smaller cities like Charleston and Mattoon, and you're dealing with smaller budgets, where do you look when you have to find extra money or cut things? Where, I mean, what's the logic? Where do you start looking?
That's about what has to happen. You have to start cutting things. You have to look at public works projects, and maybe some of them that you had planned for next year you have to delay till the following year. We hope we don't have to get into the situation where we reduce employees. Obviously, whenever that happens, we always do our best to let attrition handle that, but sometimes it can get serious.
Are you seeing the same thing in Mattoon?
We are, and the other thing that we're faced with here in Coles County is PTEL.
Yes.
We don't want to raise taxes, of course, but with PTEL, we can't raise taxes, or we're limited in how we can raise taxes.
Can you explain PTEL for those that may not understand?
Well, it's a limitation on the amount of increase in taxes that there can be.
It stands for Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, I believe, and we're limited to the increase in CPI, Consumer Price Index, or 5%, whichever is lower.
Okay, and so posing some challenges there as well.
That's right. Now, one of the things that does help is if we have expansion, new construction can be added to that base. But if you don't have a lot of new construction, you're limited to the in fact, this year I think it's 1.7% is what the number is going to be.
And it doesn't seem like there is a lot of new construction. Are you seeing anything, you know, going up around here?
Well, we've experienced in Mattoon since the 1st of January of this year in excess of $7 million in expansion of various types. That includes new buildings, homes, fences, decks, that type of thing, everything. And about $4 or $4.5 million of that value is for the new Carl Clinic building, which I understand will be open next month.
Okay.
And we've had an expansion, or remodeling, I should say, of the Walmart store in Mattoon, and I believe you had the same thing in Charleston. So, and some other things as well. So
it may seem slow, but there are things still happening.
Oh yes.
Okay.
We have seen similar kinds of increases. Sometimes some of the expansion you see this year doesn't really go into the tax rolls until the next year, but we have been seeing some increase in that.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense. Kind of you have to wait for the next year to actually see what you did the previous year. It seems to always be how it goes with things like this. It's 1 year behind. But so how are you measuring your successes in your cities? You know, is it by dollars? Is it by, you know, how do you do that?
I think it's a combination of things, by dollars, by new employees being added to various businesses or industry, by people moving into the community. I think it's a variety of things that you can look at as far as how you measure the progress.
I think we look at where we stand with the budget. If we have a balanced budget, and we have been successful in doing that for the last several years, and I think if we look at employee morale and satisfaction, we look at projects that we're able to complete. We've had some situations in the last several months that have turned out very nice. We had a place at the corner of Douglas and West Coolidge that has always been a problem, and we were able to buy the property, buy the house, tear the house down, clean up the property, and improve that intersection considerably. So we see those kinds of things that are important as well.
Little things that are counting as moving
That's right.
forward.
Like 9th Street, for example, we have started working on that area about 3 years ago. We rebuilt Polk Street from 6th to 7th, and then last year we worked on Polk Street around the curve onto 9th Street, and then this year we completed from where we left off last year to Lincoln. And we did that all with city employees. We didn't have an outside contractor do it. So that saved us a good deal of money. Turned out that we improved a street that was in terrible, terrible shape, and we added sidewalks and curbs and gutters that were never there before.
Okay. So when you're talking about, you know, you touched on something earlier about people moving in and out of town. Are we seeing growth as far as that goes as well? I mean, are the people satisfied? Are there people moving here to the area?
Well, one of the things we experienced was an increase in population from 2000 to 2010, several hundred additional people moving into the community. So I think that bodes well for the community.
Quite a big number in a small town.
It is, and we're very pleased with it, very happy with that. One of the things we're mentioning or talking about here are expansions and buildings. One of the things that I'd like to mention is a building that's being torn down. The old Associated Spring building, or the Alton Warehouse building on East Broadway.
I noticed that just the other day when I was driving
it's being
through town.
demolished. And we're hoping that with that down, and the building was beyond repair. And so if that building, when that building comes down, we're hoping that that property will be more developmentally, well, we can develop it more, it'll be more attractive for development purposes than that building sitting there.
And right there off the interstate.
And you hate to see coming right into the community, a building sitting there idle.
Okay, and you know, you mentioned cleaning up too, so maybe that's a lot of part of the small successes is, you know, making the community presentable.
Well, one of the things we've had is what we call community pride, and that's been in effect now for about 3 or 4 years, and it's an attempt to clean up the community, get people to cut the grass and the weeds and, you know, this type of thing, make their property look better and improve the neighborhood, and that's been very successful.
I seem to see a lot of that going on in Charleston too. It seems like more ordinance violations being enforced, those kinds of things.
We are doing that, and as a result, when we find a uninhabitable building, whether it's a house or a commercial building, we work with the owners to get it either fixed up or demolished and turned back into something that's useful. We've been pretty successful on a number of dilapidated houses that have been torn down, that Habitat for Humanity has bought the land and then built nice new houses on it for people who need them, and that's worked out very well. The other thing we see is, I mentioned the work we did on 9th Street. It's amazing, after improving the street, how the people with the houses along the street work on their houses and improve them.
So it's kind of a ripple out effect.
That's right.
Maybe. You see the same thing in Mattoon?
We do, and we have also done the same thing in, we set a certain amount of money aside for demolishing of homes, and we try to take down several of those properties each year where they're just uninhabitable. And one of the things our city employees have done for the most part also, the various street projects, sidewalk projects. We're just completing a project in the Elm Ridge subdivision. The water system in there was deteriorating, and so that was improved. We're going to have that resurface, that area, the streets, and our city employees put in new curbs and gutters, that type of thing. So we're trying to improve various neighborhoods as time goes along.
And I know a hot button issue for you has always been that South 9th Street flooding.
Yes.
So has that been something that's been improved this year?
It has been. That's just about completed now, and we've had 3 stages over 3 years, and the final stage will be next year. It's just about completed, and it has helped alleviate the problem with the flooding in that South 9th Street.
Okay. Is there anything you feel that your cities have missed the mark on this year that you're maybe going to work on next year?
I don't know of anything right now.
I don't either.
Off the top of my head. we have introduced a few new things this year that we're still going through the initial rollout, the initial learning process on them. We instituted an application called C-Click Fix, which allows residents or anyone, if they see something that needs to be addressed by the city, rather than having to make a phone call, if they have an iPhone or any kind of a smartphone, they can take a picture of it. They can fill out a form on their application, and it automatically gets routed to the right department head. They respond right away, acknowledging they've received it, assign the work, and keep the people informed as to what we're doing. The other thing we've done to try to get more people aware of what's going on with city government is we've started live streaming our city council meetings. They're on the internet, available to be watched real time, live, or they are archived, and people can go to the agenda for each meeting and click on a particular agenda item if they like, and look at what happened on it.
And so is C-Click Fix, that's going right now?
It is going. We launched it live. Yeah, we launched it live September 1st. We spent the summer learning a little bit about it and having it available for the employees to interact with each other on it. And it's amazing how much it has relieved phone calls from the front office with people with things that they've seen. It's also been amazing to me to see things that we didn't hear about before. Street sign missing here or there, or something like that.
All right. And anything that you are going to be working on for the next year or so over in Mattoon?
Well, a number of things. Of course, we have our priorities as far as public works is concerned. We had the street, some of the people may be familiar with, or the road that's on the east side of Walmart, Detro Drive. And that is paved down to about the south end of Walmart. And then from there to Country Club Road, it's just oil and chip. And that's a very highly traveled road. We plan to resurface that and make that better. There are other roads that or streets we're going to be working on. But you know, one of the things that makes my job so much easier are the employees that we have and the department heads. We've got an excellent staff. We've got a very good city council. We have 5 members of the council, as you do there in Charleston. The interesting thing this year, and I don't think it's ever happened before, probably in any city in the United States, of the 5 individuals on the council, 3 are CPAs. I'm not one of them, but that I think is quite unusual.
That's different.
It is very different. And you know, we talked about budget, with CPAs there, they're certainly on top of that. And it helps.
They're numbers people.
Exactly.
So what are some future plans? You know, when you look 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road for your cities, what do you see being, you know, kind of at the forefront?
Well, one of the things we have coming up, we have purchased property. It should be finalized, the sale very shortly. We're going to build a new public works building. That has been in the works for quite some period of time. We sold bonds several years ago to finance that. And so we will be doing that. That's one of the big things coming up. Always involved in industrial development, encouraging retail expansion. So, and once hopefully we'll get through the union contracts, those are some of the major things on our agenda.
What about over in Charleston?
Every year in December, we have a 2-day retreat where we do our 5-year plan, and we update it each year. In it, we look at priorities as far as street repairs and upgrades. We look at capital improvements that need to be made and schedule them out. Each year we review it, make modifications as necessary, add things that weren't known the year before, and we will be doing that here next month.
Okay, and so lots to be looked at there
Lots
as
to be
well.
looked at.
So is there anything coming up in the immediate year or so that we should be on the lookout for?
I don't think so. We obviously just a few years ago, as Mattoon did, rebuilt, upgraded our water treatment plant. We just recently finished an upgrade to our wastewater treatment plant. I think there's probably some new EPA requirements that we're going to be looking at as far as some additional things that have to be done at the wastewater treatment plant. But that's all that's on the horizon right now.
Okay, and anything in Mattoon?
Not anything other than just the normal types of things that we're working on that we've already mentioned. You know, one thing I would like to mention, people don't realize it probably, but our management staffs between Mattoon and Charleston meet on a monthly basis. Larry and City Manager Scott Smith and City Administrator Kyle Gill and I meet on a regular basis as well to exchange ideas and
here a couple of weeks ago, we had a joint city council meeting. We had some of those a number of years ago. I think in 2009 was the last one, and it just kind of didn't happen for a few years. But one of the things that Mayor Gover and I wanted to do was get those started again, and we did. And I think we plan to have one of those at least once a year, maybe twice a year if we possibly can. And that's important because it gives everybody the opportunity to see the joint things that we're working on. It also gives us the opportunity to inform both of the councils on things that they may not hear on a daily basis, things that are going on with Coles Together or with Eastern or with Lakeland. It was a very good meeting, I thought.
It was a very good meeting, and we also had President Perry from Eastern and President Bullock from Lakeland there to give a report. And the report was given by Coles Together and Coles County Regional Planning. And it also gave our council members an opportunity to meet and intermingle and talk as well.
We have 2 new council members, and I think you do as well.
Well, we have 3
new council members, and as a result, it was good for them to get to know each other a little bit.
Well, and it seems as 2 communities that are so close together, sometimes knowing what everybody's doing is probably a good idea.
Right.
Sure.
To me, I don't know how you feel about this, so I'll ask, you know, it seems like we have a good relationship of working together with all those entities that you kind of mentioned at that meeting. Is that how you see it as well, and do you find that important?
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we are working very well together. We have agreements to share all kinds of resources from police, fire, public works, ambulance. Whenever one city needs something, the other city is right there to help.
So despite the fact that we're rivals in sports, maybe we work together
Right.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, we shared on the football games. Charleston won
Right.
one year, Mattoon the next year. So
That's true. So, you know, we talked a little bit before, just as we're kind of getting to the end of the show here, about workforce, you know, and how we have such a great workforce around here. What do we do to keep that quality up? What do the cities kind of do to work on the workforce, per se?
Well, I think that's really more in the hands of the schools and the school district, and we're working now to try to encourage people, for instance, in the high school, to consider trades of various types and working in factories. There are good factory jobs available, high-paying factory jobs available, and so we're working to try to encourage the younger people to consider that as an occupation.
one of the things we're finding is as we talk to the industrial employers, is there is a shortage of skilled labor, and there's a shortage of young people who seem to be interested in going that route. And as Mayor Gover said, we're working with the school systems to try to put into some programs that will encourage them and make them realize that that's not bad to have a job working in a factory, because it's a lot different than it used to be. It's not a dirty job like it used to be. It's a high-tech job in a lot of cases now.
All right, so as we close here in the last few minutes, what is next? Are you looking forward to the next 6 months? Is there anything you want to accomplish since you're kind of new to the mayorship, I suppose?
Actually, I'm looking for things to settle down a little bit. We've been kind of busy for the first 6 months with various and sundry things that have gone on, and a couple of surprises. And I would like to see things slow down just a little bit so that we can finish getting our feet on the ground.
What about you? A little busy over there too?
It is, but quiet is good.
Yeah, it is.
And of course, now coming toward the end of the year, things quiet down because of the holidays. And one thing I'd like to mention, we're going to have light works in Peterson Park. People always enjoy that. And so I hope people have a wonderful Thanksgiving and Christmas and a very happy, healthy, and prosperous 2014.
That's right. We'd like to see that for everyone.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to talking to you maybe both again in 2014 and see
Good.
how it's going
Look forward
next
to
year.
that.
Thank
So
you.
We appreciate you
you.
coming on the show today. And we appreciate all of you for watching as well. That's it for At Issue today. If you have a topic or a question that you'd like to see here on the show, send it to weiu@weiu.net. For At Issue, I'm your host, Kate Pleasant, and we'll see you next time.